So, welcome to the next episode of Beyond the Couch with me, Graeme Wood from Rapid Change Hypnosis. And today I am joined by Dr. Rebecca Clavel-Bate, Dr. Becca for short, who is a hypnotherapist, a sleep coach, and CBTI practitioner. And she's going to talk to us about all things sleep related, particularly insomnia, but a bit of everything. So, Becca, over to you. Just say hello.
Hi. I'm Becca. I'm a hypnotherapist and I am also a sleep coach and I've trained in CBTI. And the reason that I ended up on this path is because I suffered with insomnia myself for around 14 years. It started with a difficult marriage. Okay, so that was like the first time that I experienced sleep difficulties. So as a teenager, I had the normal, wanting to sleep in till goodness knows what time in an afternoon, and like normal teenagers, never wanting to get out of bed.
Yeah, as all
And
teenagers do.
and again, all through my 20s, no problem at all with sleep. And it wasn't until I was sort of mid 30s where I'd been married for a while, things started to, maybe not be as they should. And of course, that emotional stress started to impact on my sleep. So, progressively over quite a long period of time, my sleep issues became worse. Didn't really realize it at the time because I got lots of other things going on. But, looking back now, over about 14 years. But also looking back now, I didn't know what I know now about sleep. And I didn't know at the time what help was available also to help you with sleep. So I struggled on my own for quite a long time.
So, with the sleep issues, obviously, the first way you say is stress related, which we all know stress can affect sleep.
Yeah.
What's the difference between just having a few bad nights' sleep and actually having insomnia?
Okay. Yeah. So having a few bad nights sleep, it's quite normal, isn't it? I mean, we all go through tough times in life. Um, and if you have a few bad nights sleep, then or even if you have something, traumatic happen, so you lose a relative or a friend, like we experience a death, or we have a problem at work, we have a bit of stress at work, or we have a falling out do with a partner or a friend or something, you'd expect that after 2 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks that your sleep patterns will get back to a normal routine, a normal cycle. If you have insomnia, what happens is that it doesn't after that short period of time. Your disturbed sleep continues. And insomnia is categorized in the DSM-5 as struggling to get to sleep, so difficulties getting to sleep, difficulties staying asleep, or difficulties, continually waking up far too early. So there's those three main things. And so it's getting to sleep, staying asleep, and problems waking up too early. If we have acute insomnia, that's where your sleep pattern is changed and you've experienced these difficulties for up to 3 months. So after the 2 week period, or 3 week period, should I say, where you would expect, a normal disruption to resolve. If sleep difficulties continue, then you would have up to 3 months, you'd have acute insomnia. And if it progressed beyond that, beyond 3 months and into the long term, then it's described as chronic.
So, you use hypnotherapy, but you're also a sleep coach. How
Yeah.
does coaching work alongside the hypnotherapy?
Okay, good question. Okay, so hypnotherapy and coaching do go really well together anyway. So with the hypnotherapy, when I'm working with a client, most sleep issues start, not all, but a lot of sleep issues start with some emotional baggage, some trauma,
Yeah.
something that's happened that creates a disturbance in sleep. So, like I've already mentioned, grief, stress, anxiety, relationship problems, work stress, general day-to-day life things. That's normally the start of it. What keeps insomnia going, or what fuels this problem with sleeping, is the behaviors that develop because of that. So we tend to slip into these behaviors where we, without even realizing we're doing it, to be honest, we sort of change the way that we behave because we struggle sleeping. So we might stay up later scrolling on our screens on the phone. We might we might start going to bed a bit later watching television. We might start drinking a bit more. People who smoke might smoke more because you're stressed and you're thinking that that's going to relieve the anxiety, that's going to, make you sleep. Some people choose to, some people take drugs like the cannabis because they think that the CBD, the cannabis, is going to help them feel sleepy. Some people might start taking over the counter sleep medications, but the way our thinking changes and the way our behavior changes in response to us not sleeping that fuels and perpetuates the insomnia, that keeps it going. So that's where the coaching comes in. So the hypnotherapy we can use to reframe thinking, but also to release emotional baggage, to get rid of things that are causing the anxiety, maybe help to resolve some of those emotional issues. But alongside that, the coaching can help you change the way you think about sleep and about also your other behaviors, reframe negative thinking or anxious thoughts that have come, that develop because, oh my God, I'm not sleeping. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. I've got to get up for work, and I'm only going to have 5 hours, and I'm going to be knackered tomorrow. So these thoughts start to create anxiety around sleep, and also about, it changes the way that people think about sleep, and that then again fuels the insomnia. It makes the situation worse. So I find that the hypnotherapy and the coaching go well together.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize with lots of things, we form a behavioral pattern
Mm.
trying to cope with an issue, which doesn't really help. I mean, you mentioned drinking and smoking. Because people say, oh, it makes me sleepy, it calms me down. But they're both stimulants. So
Absolutely.
when that initial effect has worn off, you still have that stimulant running around in your body, which
Yeah.
isn't going to help.
And the thing with alcohol is that initially, you can have you can have one glass or two glasses and it does make you feel sleepy.
Mm.
But the problem with alcohol is that it fragments your sleep. So it makes you sleep lighter. So you have more disturbed sleep, and also it dehydrates you. So there's more and it's a diuretic. So if you're drinking to help you go to sleep, or you're drinking before you go to sleep. So if you've had a big night out, you'll likely have a rubbish night's sleep, because for one, you're going to be waking up thirsty. For two, you're probably wanting to get up to go for a wee in the night,
Yeah.
and you're having a lighter sleep. You don't go into that really deep sleep. You have more periods of lighter sleep. It makes you sleep more fragmented. You perhaps toss and turn a little bit more, so you've more disturbed sleep. So you wake up the next morning feeling like you've had a rubbish sleep.
You come round rather than wake up. So the CBT, a lot of people will have heard of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy.
Yeah.
So with the eye on then for insomnia, what's the difference between CBT and CBTI?
Well, that's a good question, because I'm not trained in CBT, so I can't comment too much on that. But it's about reframing. CBT is looking a lot. CBT for insomnia is the elements of it really are looking at changing your thoughts about sleep, which is the cognitive restructuring.
Yeah.
Yeah, so changing the way that your beliefs.
Mm.
And also, when I work with clients and I do the CBTI program, we look at dysfunction. We do a screening for dysfunctional beliefs. So at the beginning, I do an assessment called the dysfunctional beliefs assessment. I think it's called the DBAS.
That easy.
I think that's it. It's fairly self-explanatory. But basically, we do that as a starting point. So we look at what people believe about their own sleep. So, for example, one question might be, how many hours sleep do you think that you need to feel refreshed in the morning? Now, most people would say, oh, I need 8 hours.
Mm.
All right, because that's what we're sort of being led to
What we're
believe
always told, yeah.
and educated
Yeah.
about all these years.
Yeah.
And the NICE guidelines and the NHS guidelines say between 7 and 9 hours you need for, to remain healthy over a long period of time. Those are the recommended hours for sleep. However, if you actually think about it, about you personally, how many hours do you actually need to feel like you can function the next day? I bet it's a lot less than what you actually think. So for me personally, if I have 5 hours sleep, I feel awful, but I can drag myself through the day. If I have 6 hours sleep, 6.5 hours sleep, I'm on fire.
Yeah.
That to me is my optimum amount of sleep, where I wake up usually without an alarm at 6.5 hours, but I feel completely refreshed, that I'm productive, like I'm on fire and I can perform to my best after 6.5 hours. So everyone's different. So the cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia looks at dysfunctional beliefs and reframing people's thinking patterns around sleep. Looks at behaviors, so not only thoughts but also behaviors, behavior patterns. So we look at things like routine, people's bedtime routine. We look at the holistic approach to sleep, I suppose, because I'm very holistic in that way. And I suppose that's why I combine it with hypnotherapy as well. So we look at, behaviors, lifestyle. So we look at diet, we look at exercise, because that's all really important and impacts on your sleep, even if people don't actually realize it, but it does. How you eat, the foods you eat, how much exercise you do. Exercise is massively influential on sleep. So we look at diet, we look at lifestyle, exercise, lifestyle choices. We look at the thinking around sleep, the behaviors, especially around bedtime routines. And like I say, about not doing emails in bed, things like that, people
Yeah.
eating. It's like you've got to put the day to bed before you get into bed.
Yeah.
People are very, very lazy these days, and we get comfy, don't we? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
especially if it's cold, more so in winter, maybe. Like, yeah, I'm going to get in bed and I'm going to do my emails and I'm going to just catch up on this, that, and the other on the laptop.
Yeah.
Or we're bringing work basically into our bedroom, where the bed really should only be for sex and sleep. That's it. And a lot of the reasons that people struggle with sleep difficulties, because they're bringing there's a cognitive association between bed and other things. So bed isn't a place for a lot of people just for sleep or sex. It is a place where they go to chill, to watch TV, get in bed at 8:30, and then we'll spend 3 hours in bed before we actually get to sleep. And although that might be nice, and if you don't suffer with sleep problems or sleep difficulties, that's fine, But if you do, then this is where we have to look at the behaviors that you do that are negative towards your sleep, and then look at readdressing those and putting other things, drawing your attention to the things that might be impacting negatively on your sleep, and then looking at what we can do to change those. And then the other thing, the really important part of sleep, of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, is something that we call sleep restriction or sleep scheduling. And basically, this is where I have my clients under no illusion how hard this program is. So I do a 6-week program with my clients where they work on a one-to-one with me. And the first session is assessment. So I do a thorough assessment, like a what do we call it? A severity, an insomnia severity index. So that looks at, it's a self administering questionnaire. The client rates themselves and how they feel they sleep, but that gives us a starting point. We do the DBAS, and we also do the Epworth sleepiness scale, which is an indicator of daytime sleepiness. And then if necessary, we can do a sleep apnea screening as well. So the start of the program for me is, it's a lot of talking, taking a really good sleep history, and doing baseline assessments, so we get a really good feel for the way someone is sleeping. And then we also introduce, in the second week, we introduce a sleep diary. So clients weekly would monitor their sleep, how long it takes, what time they go to bed, how long it takes them to fall asleep, how many times they wake up in a night, what time they get out of bed in the morning, do they lie in, these sort of questions. And that also, over a period, that gives us a baseline to start with as well. But over the 6 weeks, they fill this in for the 6 weeks, and over those 6 weeks we see how their sleep efficiency, which is how long they sleep compared to how much time they spend in bed. So out of how much time they spend in bed, how much time of that is actually them being asleep, and that then gives us a percentage. We work it out as a percentage, and that is gives us a feel for the quality of sleep that someone's getting. So over the 6 weeks, we monitor this data, these statistics really carefully, and it gives us a guide as to what we need to be working on. Now, with the clients that I work with, I said it's quite tough, because when we do those initial baseline assessment, that gives us a starting point as to how much sleep these people need to really strip back, to reset their circadian rhythm. And we're dealing with biology here. So it's quite brutal, because I will say to them, right, and this is where you need to be trained, because they need to be monitored, and there are contraindications to this. So this is why I don't, when I do my sleep program and I teach other people how to help people with sleep, this isn't in it, because this is the specialist part. Okay.
Right.
So it's called sleep rescheduling or sleep restriction, and the clients will be basically only allowed, for example, 5 hours in bed, never less than 5 hours, but that's where we would strip it back to. So say, for example, they wanted to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, then they would not be allowed to get into bed until 2 a.m. every night, even weekends. So
Right.
it's quite brutal.
Yeah.
But what that does is it's a real sharp, hard shock to the circadian rhythm to reset the system. And then after they've done that for a week, they're on the knees by then, but they're exhausted. The difference in their sleep quality over that short period of time, having 5 hours sleep, it builds their sleep drive up. That's the point of it. It builds their sleep drive. So we have something, as well as a circadian rhythm, that regulates our sleep, which is influenced by daylight times, sunrise and sunset, by the light, and also other things like cultural factors like environment, and also food, eating. So these things that we do every day, get up, go to bed, eat, these routines influence our circadian rhythm. But there's something else in our biology that also helps us sleep, and that's called a sleep drive. So it's from the moment you wake up, your sleep drive starts building, and it's a build up of adenosine in your brain as a result of daylight and everything that we do, all the functions that we do during the day. Our sleep pressure, our drive to sleep builds up, builds up, and builds up, and builds up, and builds up during the day. And then when it gets to crashing time, when it's built up and built up and built up and built up as much as it can possibly build, that's when you're fighting. When you've got to that point late at night and you can't keep your eyes open any longer, and your eyes are going and you're ready for crashing, that's because your adenosine, your sleep drive, is at its peak. Then you fall asleep, then it resets itself. So your what you call your glymphatic system, your glymphatic wash, which is again like the brain's way of flushing out all the adenosine, all the toxins of everything that's built up during the day from your brain activity, flushes your brain out, flushes the adenosine out. Overnight, your biological system resets itself, and when you wake up the next day, your sleep drive starts again, and that system just carries on perpetually every single day. It is impacted by napping. So some people are getting into this habit of napping during the day because they're so tired, but then struggle to sleep at night. And that's why, because if you imagine your sleep drive builds up, but then you nap, it dips. So then it's got to start again and build up again. So if you're going to nap, there's lots of discussions about napping, whether it's good or bad. But I say to my clients, if it's going to keep you safe, if you're driving and you're feeling so tired that you're going to put yourself at risk of an accident, then have a little nap. But nap for a short period, like a power nap, so 20 minutes, half an hour, so that you're not getting into a full sleep cycle, that you're only staying in the lighter stages of sleep, and do it earlier on in the day, so it's not going to impact too much on you getting to sleep in an evening.
I got to admit, with my old job, I used to be a napper. I used to work odd hours, and I found sometimes, say the power nap, 20 minutes, half hour's great.
Yeah.
Sometimes if I got to about an hour, I really struggled to wake up, and I spent the next 2 hours feeling really, really groggy.
Yeah.
It'd be a real struggle.
And that is because, so your sleep cycles last 90 minutes. thereabouts.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you fall asleep, you go light sleep, then into stage 2 sleep, then into stage 3 sleep, which is that deep, heavy sleep. Then you come back up to stage 2, then to stage 1, then you go in REM sleep, which is the dreamy, where you do the dreaming.
Yeah.
There's a lot of brain activity in REM sleep. And then you go back down. The thing is, this sleep cycle between all these different stages of sleep lasts around 90 minutes. And we go through about 5 of these cycles every night, okay, which gives us our average 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah.
If you go into a nap and you wake up and it's too long, so then you've drifted, like I say, into the hour and 90 minutes, you're likely going to be in that deep sleep cycle. So when you wake up and you're in the deep sleep cycle, that's why you feel really groggy. That's where they call it sleep inertia. So you're going to wake up feeling really, really like a zombie, really groggy
Yep. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
napped for too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it's just your opinion, people who have these sleep apps on their phone have their smartwatches and their phones tracking their sleep. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Just in your opinion.
Right. Okay. Two thoughts on this.
There you go.
One is they can be good for spotting patterns in your sleep. So they can be, yeah, if you're a bad sleeper, it can be helpful for, yeah, for spotting patterns, I think. And they're not always really accurate. And they can cause more, my other thought is they can cause more anxiety.
See,
Because
that's
people
my thought.
there,
That's my thought on it. Is people are like, "Oh, I've got to," and then when it's not perfect,
yeah,
like, "Oh,
it
it's not perfect,"
feels,
and now
yeah. That's my thought.
self-perpetuate on
It
that.
fuels more anxiety around sleep, and I've not had enough stage 2 sleep or REM sleep, or I need more. And people get hung up on this. I've not had enough of this stage sleep. Well, it's a biological process, and you're not going to have any influence on that. You need a good quality sleep, a good quality of the cycles of sleep. So I think fueling anxiety, but also, like I say, they're not particularly accurate. Two that I've done so I have done some research on these watches, and the ones that I've found with the most accuracy, because they have magnets in them. Some of them they have magnets in them, so they work on movement. So when you toss and turn in the night, they assume that you sort of waking, or you're in these
Yeah,
different sort of stages of sleep. Apple Watch and Fitbit have got the best reputation for accuracy. But they are clever in other ways. I think they can, with they have the little sensors, the green light that can monitor your blood flow and things
yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So they're very, very clever, and I think they are getting better. But I do think that sometimes people just get too hung up on, you know, what stages of sleep they've had and how much sleep they've had, and I think that can just makes the situation worse. But if you were maybe struggling with sleep, as in a sleep apnea sort of situation, and you were stopping breathing in your sleep regularly, then they may well,
Yeah.
help you pick up patterns that then you'd go back to your GP with, and you'd show them the information and see they could then send you for, to a sleep science
Yeah.
sleep specialist, or a sleep what do you call it? We've got amnesia now. A sleep unit, where you go to a
Yeah,
sleep center.
the sleep
Yeah.
centers. So
Yeah.
it's good for
But that's
collecting data. Yeah, so they're good for collecting data, but don't make your
don't
life.
get hung up on
Yeah,
them.
don't get hung up on them. And
Yeah.
I mentioned about me with working different hours. How does, in your experience, how does shift work affect? Because so many people now work different shifts. They might work 2 jobs.
Mm.
They might come home, have a couple of hours, and then go out to their evening job. Or something.
Yeah.
There's so much pressure to work and
It's
work
really,
around
it's
those.
really hard, isn't it? Because the pressure of life means that, like, it's just that people
Yeah,
sometimes do work shifts. I think the general advice, if I can remember rightly, is about, if you can do rotational shifts, do rotational
yeah,
shifts. And I think it is also about, when you're not working, trying to keep to the routine of daylight and
yeah,
nighttime. Because when you're in a factory as well, you've got lights on all the time, haven't
yeah,
you? That really, to say our circadian rhythms are governed by light. I mean,
yeah,
we do sleep very differently now as well, don't we? They think before electricity and in the industrial age, You know,
I don't remember back then. I'm old, but I'm not
I
that old.
don't, but you think when before we had electricity and
Yeah,
people, you had no choice. Like people probably slept differently because they
yeah,
would be going to bed a lot sooner because we didn't have electric to keep us up later. We didn't have televisions to keep us up later. We didn't have screens. So I think since the industrial age, definitely our sleep patterns have probably got a lot worse.
yeah.
There's probably a lot more different, problems with insomnia. Um, in this day and age than probably there were several hundred years ago.
So you
Yeah,
talk
so
about the. Yeah, sorry, go on.
not going to say the other thing. Shift work is about keeping a routine. I think making sure that you eat like you would breakfast if you're getting
Yeah.
home. And, trying to keep that routine going best you can.
And
And
for
if you're
people who,
traveling, sorry, I was
that's
going to say
right.
if you're traveling with jet lag,
Yeah,
I think as well, if you were traveling, the idea of adjusting to a different time zone, again, it's about fitting in with that time zone as soon as you can. So eat when they eat, try
yeah,
not to sleep when they sleep, like trying to adjust yourself to fit in with the culture and the
yeah.
environment. Yeah.
Even though you might be 8 hours out in your head, just try,
Absolutely.
just
It's hard.
yeah.
Yeah, it is hard.
Is
But
it?
there
I
is
don't,
but there
yeah,
is a way of making it just
yeah.
that bit easier. Yeah.
So you mentioned the environmental. We've got a different environment now, and lots of people live in noisy places. It's
Mm.
24/7 traffic outside. I mean, where I am, we've got lorries running up and down the road all night, going from the Royal Mail delivery place and couriers going through all the street lights and that lot, which does have an effect. What advice could you give people? How could they sort of shield themselves from that a bit?
Okay. So again, having a good quality night's sleep is about your bedroom being as dark as possible. So getting some blackout blinds or some curtains that are really, heavy with the blackout lining,
Yeah.
maybe to try and keep that light out best you can. So yeah, keeping your bedroom dark, stimulus free. I mean, right, I've got these here to show you. So you could also use an eye mask.
Pre-prepared, I
Yeah,
must.
you can also use an eye mask. And this is a silk eye mask, but you can,
Ooh.
yeah, it's really soft on your skin and it
Yeah,
feels, and you know what? I like it because it feels a little bit of pressure. It's just a very slight pressure on your eyes, but that as well. So I tend to use this, right? I don't use it to go to sleep because my bedroom's dark. I don't have anything distracting in my bedroom. The lights are off. Phone, so even though so people have alarm clocks in their room or the phones, but you can turn them upside down so that the light from the phone's not distracting, or if someone sends a text message, it's not flashing at you.
right up, yeah.
And the black and I do have really thick curtains to keep the light out. But I find if I get up to go for a wee in the middle of the night and it's starting to come light, then that's when I use this. I put
Right.
this on then to help me get back to sleep. You could use earplugs if you really need to, if you've got a partner that snores and they're not prepared to wear the strips that help to stop the snoring or anything like that. You could use earplugs. Another thing, I say I've got another little thing here to show you. You can use things like, I mean, this is what they call sleep hygiene. So these sort of things are all going to sort of help, but they're not going to cure insomnia.
Yeah,
Okay. So if you've got mild sleep difficulties, then things like I say these the pillow spray. So that's a nice tropic one. It's got lavender in it and all sorts of things.
yeah,
And I just spray that on my pillow. Or you can use things like a temple balm. That's a lavender one where you just sort of put it on here.
yeah,
These things all help to relax and calm your mind. If you're interested in how blue light, and there's arguments that for and against blue light affecting sleep. Some research says it doesn't, some research says it does, but you can buy things like these blue light glasses that at night you can watch television with these, or you can read with them on, and they filter out the blue light, which is stimulating to your optic nerve. And that's what the blue light's in the sunshine in the morning, which stimulates everything. So filtering out the blue light is believed to help people sleep. So you can get those blue light glasses. You can also buy things like that. I don't like this, and I bought it to try it. It's a handheld sleep device, and it's a USB charge thing, and it's like it gives you like these little electric shocky things
yeah, yeah,
in your palm. Now I
yeah.
don't like it. To me, it's too stimulating and too distracting for me. I didn't like it, but people were recommending it when I was doing my research about what helps people sleep. Some people use them, so I bought one on Amazon just to try it to see. if it works. Not for me, but for other people it may do. So you can listen to so making sure your bedroom, going back to the advice, darkness is
Yeah.
really important. Making sure your sleep no, your bedroom is cool enough. So around 18 degrees, 18 to 19 degrees temperature for your bedroom. Because if your bedroom's too hot, you're going to be like wet through. If it's too cold, you're going to be freezing and not going to get to sleep. If your bedroom is cold in winter as well, a really good tip is you can wear bed socks, but just don't fall down the stairs in them like I did. Um, you can fluffy bed socks. So if you've got warmer feet, you're more likely to fall asleep and stay asleep quicker. About 20% actually. There's research, there's actual research on bed socks. So that's a good tip, using bed socks. Using, especially women who are going through menopause, using bedding that is cotton, or that you can, and layers that you can strip off. Don't necessarily mean your clothing, but layers of bedding rather than a duvet. So if you get too hot, you can take some layers off, and then if you wake up freezing, you can put some layers back on. So it's about making your environment calm and giving your body those signals that it's time to sleep. So dark, quiet, no stimulus, cool. You can listen to sleep hypnosis. You could listen to, there's loads of sleep hypnosis recordings on YouTube. Find something that you like, whether it's music, softly spoken, visualization. Some people like green noise, brown noise, whatever, white noise,
White noise, yeah.
whatever helps
Yeah.
you to focus your attention, calm your mind, slow everything down, and drift back off to sleep.
So what would you advise people who maybe wake up to go to the loo or whatever, or just wake up, but then can't get back to sleep and they're tossing and turning?
Okay, if you haven't got back to sleep within 15 minutes or 15, 20 minutes, then get out of bed, go do something really boring. Go and sort the washing out, go and tidy your drawer out, go and sit and read, just read a book. But you're going to do something that's not stimulating. You could watch television, but nothing that's emotionally stimulating, nothing that's going to make you cry. Just something that's, basically mind-numbingly boring until your eyes are sleepy tired. And when they're sleepy tired, get back into bed. Now, if you're in a position where you can't get out of bed, then maybe you might have a chair, or leave the room for whatever reason. Maybe there's a chair in your room you could sit in, or even that, just then read for a little while in bed if you can't get out of bed. But it is about doing something that is non-stimulating, tiring your eyes back out, and then falling, getting back into bed. So that association. So earlier when I mentioned, that the cognitive association between sleep and bed should just be sleep and bed, or bed and sex. It shouldn't be anything else. When you're lying there indirectly, when you're tossing and turning, and then your mind starts wandering about, oh, I haven't done this, and oh, tomorrow I've got to do that, and what we're having for tea on Friday, and such, and you start thinking about the kids, and your mind goes off on a tangent, then that is not what is going to help you sleep. So you need these cognitive distraction techniques, which is another thing that we teach in CBTI, to help focus your attention, close everything back down into going back to sleep. But again, one of the techniques that we use that's really important is that you do not lie in bed tossing and turning for any longer than 20 minutes. Get out of bed, go do something boring, and get back in bed when you're sleepy tired.
Excellent advice. And I'm sure a lot of people watching will appreciate that. I certainly do, because it will help me.
You're welcome.
So I know that you teach this stuff, you train this stuff. So for hypnotherapists watching who want to learn this stuff, and to people watching who have sleep issues and want to contact you for help, how can they do that?
Okay, so if you are not a therapist and you're wanting some help, you can contact me on my website, which is Dr Becca, www.drbecca.co.uk. I offer a free 30-minute consultation. So you can book that on my website in the treatment section. Just book a free online consultation. So we do it on Zoom or on the phone. We have a chat and to see basically if I can help And, you know, it's 30 minutes just seeing if we're a good fit to work together. You can tell me what you need help with, and I can tell you if I can help you or not. So that's
Brilliant.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are a therapist and you want to join me on my course, I'm doing a course for therapists, which will help you help your clients sleep better. And that's on the 28th of June, 2026. Yeah. 28th of June, 10 a.m. It's a full day course, and we'll be covering the neuroscience behind sleep, and we'll also be covering the cognitive therapy and some other aspects of CBTI that will help you, that you can include in your practice, that will help you help your clients sleep better.
So, Dr. Becca, keeping it nice and easy. Dr. Becca, thank you very much for your time. It's been very informative. I'll put all those links in down below, so if anyone's interested, they can contact you. Hope you've enjoyed watching this. I'm Graeme Wood, Rapid Change Hypnosis. If you have enjoyed these podcasts, please hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, just send me a message, let me know why, and I'll make sure it's better for next time. Thank you for watching. See you all later. Bye.
Bye.